And I saw like early on how technology would be able to do everything my dad have done in his life with microcredit and helping and supporting people. I could, with technology, amplify that. So I saw like at 12 years old, I was like helping to automate his email and doing design and doing the first website. And at 16, I built up a social network so I could connect the farmers to the bids into the government.
Hi, welcome back to the Badass CEO. This is your host, Mimi McLean, and today I have on Taynaah Reis, and she is no newcomer to the fintech world. She started her programming journey at age 12 and founded her first company at age 16. Taynaah is CEO and founder of Moeda, which is Portuguese for coin. Moeda works to create a more inclusive and egalitarian world through blockchain, offering payment solutions that make finance more accessible and contribute to driving social impact. Moeda was born from her participation in the 2017 United Nations Hackathon. And thanks to Taynaah's tireless efforts, she has grown to conduct over $100 million in financial transactions across 50,000 global users. From the very beginning, social impact has played a core role in Taynaah's work, evidenced in her 2018 Forbes recognition as one of the 12 young, most innovative leaders to watch and learn from. And she's raised over $10 million in funding and has provided to seed projects in Brazil. Taynaah, thank you so much for coming on today. I was reading about your company and your story, and you amaze me. I mean, you've accomplished so much and you're so young. But I would love for you to talk about, I mean, there's so much to talk about with your company, like explaining to us about blockchain and all that. But I would love to just go back and talk about like your childhood and how you started programming at 12 years old and, started your first company at 16 and all that. So can you talk a little bit about your childhood and what led you to start a company so young?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Yes, I started very young. At 1 year old, my dad gave me my first computer. So I was like all curious about it. We always like have this opportunity as a child, homeschooled. So my mom was teaching me math and about history and really this like eager to learn. Like, I grew up with a library like in my home, like 5,000 books. And my dad and mom was like, they were reading to me. And I got fascinated with technology. And I saw like early on how technology would be able to do everything my dad have done in his life with microcredit and helping and supporting people. I could, with technology, amplify that. So I saw like at 12 years old, I was like helping to automate his email and doing design and doing the first website. And at 16, I built up a social network so I could connect the farmers to the bids into the government, so I could like see like and amplify everything with like transparency and building this fair economy. I had a so rich childhood and I feel so blessed because he took me every time to the cooperatives, the farmers, the indigenous communities, so I could get like a sense of different realities and how he was like helping people, but he was like working within the government. So it was very difficult for him to do the change within the government.
Oh, right.
And I would see like a lot of bureaucracy. And I told my dad, like, when I grow up, I will give the credit first to the women. and I was like, all the challenges that he had. And I was like experiencing this in my childhood. I said, I will solve this with technology. And here I am, like the mission and my mission in life. I feel that everything like contributed, like he was teaching me English and all the languages and also that opened up many possibilities in my career to study abroad. And I feel like everything that my family support me today my dad is an advisor of the company and my mom is she's amazing too. Like I I just feel like if every child would have like the opportunity to learn different things and study and be incentivized early on and to do good and to bring value to the world, I think we will be like in a different place. So I feel blessed.
That's great. And so you have co-founders now. So how did you come up with the idea and find your co-founders and talk a little bit about your journey about starting your company?
In 2017, I was doing consultancy work for the United Nations in New York. I lived in New York for 3 years. And I started investing in Bitcoin early on in 2015. So I saw and I started studying the technology. I was like amazed by, I read the white paper. I was like, oh, that's it. This is the new economy, the new era of like abundance, and we can create a fair economy through this. And was around the time that the Sustainable Development Goals, people were having the discussions, how we can fund the world, we can eradicate poverty and hunger. And I saw like the trends like in technology that could help to solve the SDGs. So I put together, I hosted a hackathon at the UN at the time. So I coordinated, and the challenge of the hackathon was like how we can use blockchain technologies for the Sustainable Development Goals, and especially to target the women in Brazil or in developing countries that need capital and access to finances quick. And I put the challenge. It was like amazing people that went to the UN at the time, and we gave the award, and the winners were my co-founders. So I was very lucky again, like in my life, to have found Brad and Issa. They already had a big background into blockchain, self-sovereign identity. Brad was doing like a lot of work into ID and in blockchain in a longer time that I was. And Issa, she's like mathematicians, like brings like the logic, and she's Chinese. So I started to study and learn about this beautiful culture, and I felt that the possibilities in China, they were like envisioning in a long term this technology to be implemented very soon. So today, like most of our investors are from Asia. And yes, having her, like I started to see like how we can do things in a longer term, in 50 years, in 100 years. And with like, she's very strategic and logic. So I learned with them a lot. And Brad came from the financial background. Also, he developed things and worked at the Deutsche Bank. So I was like getting the sense of the financial and traditional industry through them. So we complement each other like perfectly. And I'm like hands-on into like developing the technology, architecting the systems, like integrating. Today we have like 6 different blockchain protocols, and the design and like implementing in Brazil, where is my home base country first. So we started here because like you have like the connections, the governmental connections, everything that was needed to implement something like big as Moeda is today. So I feel that was just the perfect start with like the perfect team to do it.
That's great. Now, can you explain to some of us who are not as savvy exactly what blockchain is and how maybe they could be applying it to their business? If there's other CEOs on here that are selling things, or in other capacities, is there a way that they can transition and use blockchain for their business?
Absolutely. It's a technology that today that is the underlying technology of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, and that can unlock many things, but especially is the technology for this new era where we need to build trust. And the features that this technology has can bring trust between transactions and between people and consensus. So the big way that people sell, the biggest use case is Bitcoin. So people see like you can transfer monetary value without intermediaries. So I can transfer, if I transfer to you $100, and if it's arrives in your banking account, we will need a third party validating that, a bank, and the government needs to validate the ID. But with Bitcoin, no, I can transfer to you just with an address that will allow me to know and recognize that transaction. And this is validated to a network of computers and people that do the Bitcoin like mining that validates that network and that transaction exists, and that cannot be deleted, that can not be duplicated. So if I send $100 worth of Bitcoin, that will not be in my account. So will not be a duplication of that value. But when Ethereum comes along with like smart contracts and other applications of the blockchain technology, you can start to tap into other validation. So for example, I'm selling a home. Today people are paying like things in the gaming industry, but also big homes, they are paying with Bitcoin. So I can transfer the money of Bitcoin. But if it's someone that needs a commission or we need to send to, we can design that logic inside the smart contract. Oh, that money needs to arrive here, but you can just give the person the home if they sign the contract. So we can start to do the link within the technology with other things like in real life that need to be executed. So we open up for logistics, for validating certificates, for validating donations, and we open like a lot of applications of the technology into healthcare to validate a vaccination certificate, like many applications of the technology. So today is like no way to go back or escape. Like people from many different sectors will heard about it, and today we see like a lot of the big companies and big banks, like today they have a director of blockchain or someone that's taking care of blockchain with that transition, because is important to have something that we can rely on, that is transparent, that we have the information, but we have a means to store value over time and transact them between people. And like in Moeda, like you someone from China, from Japan can invest directly in a cooperative in Brazil. That will be hard to trust a project in like a different country with politics and with a lot of uncertainty that we have today in the common days. And that uncertainty is rising and a lot of inflation in countries like mine. So people started to pay attention for Bitcoin as like a means to store value, to hedge their currency, their own local currency. Today, most of the farmers, they started to pay attention, and 15% of the farmers and the people is like, oh, I want to receive maybe in Bitcoin. Like they are starting to get understanding that this in the future can be drive value and can be a way of investment too. So from the financial side to education to many other sectors that will be impacted through this technology, is always good to, can be like complicated sometimes, but can be simplified by the examples. Today, what I see that is helping with the adoption are the NFTs. They are an example of the use of blockchain, so people can start to sell a painting or a music, like things that now people can touch. That is like easier to, is a tangible way for to see the technology, how we can implement and sell art in a global digital gallery between like people that never seen each other. So we open opportunity for musicians, for artists, or for people that were not included into the economy, the underserved or unbanked people. There's like so many possibilities. I'm always like happy to.
Yeah, that's great. Now, this may be a dumb question, but is your currency that you use on Moeda, is it Bitcoin or is it your own currency?
MDA, we created on the Ethereum protocol. The Ethereum protocol is different from the Bitcoin protocol because it has something called a smart contract. And it's an easier way to launch currencies because the language, the programming language, is similar to JavaScript, which is the Solidity, their language. So we open the possibilities for a lot of developers in the world, like myself, to get close to it and to design the token in a way. For example, the utility of Moeda is to invest in projects and to participate on the governance of the project, so we can do and develop other token economics around the currency with that protocol. The Bitcoin protocol is more used for transfer value and store value, more on the financial side. We wanted to develop something for transparency, especially for the impact investment that we do. So we choose the Ethereum protocol. But Moeda today, we work with other protocols as well. One is the Stellar protocol, because we started to see that the cost of the transaction on Ethereum was getting high and high and high. So we couldn't scale at the time. And then we choose the Stellar, which is good for micropayments. So that's what I see when you are building a solution is you need to study the applications of each blockchain protocol, because they can solve some problems, and for other challenges, they are not so good. So building the architecture and the combination of different protocols, you might achieve like a complex problem or solution to have. So we found that the simple people, the volatility of the Ethereum was too high, and even our currency MDA was like up and down, up and down. And we wanted something that they could understand immediately and would drive the adoption. So we created a stable currency to mirror the local currency. So that was like perfect link. So they could exchange very quickly and they just see the local currency. And then the other protocol we have used was Hyperledger Fabric, because this one we can track and monitor all the projects, all the information from the project. So you can see like, oh, I invested on the coffee project from the women producers. You see they planting the coffee and how it's developed the production, and then the sales, and then you get a return on the sales from that. So everything, all the information is stored on the Hyperledger, but we choose other protocol because part of the information must be private. Sensitive information like their address, like those things could not be public. The other protocols that I mentioned, they were all public. So that's why we choose a third protocol. And then today to issue NFTs and issue like other different kind of digital assets, we choose Polygon because it's more environmental friendly, it's less costly on fees and transactions. So we can give NFTs, we can issue NFTs to certify donations, investments, and education. So it's a digital way for people to build and store value. And those like different technologies that I told about, they are like pieces of the puzzle that connect with the bigger solution, which is build a bank that is more inclusive for people and assets that are customized for their journey, their entrepreneur journey, being on the city or being in a rural area.
That's great. What have you found to be the hardest part of your journey of starting this company and building it?
Everything from legislation and regulation. 5 years ago was hard to talk about cryptocurrencies. Was a lot of people taking advantage and using to a negative way. So especially in countries like mine, in Brazil, was too negative to associate with crypto or other things. But as the time went by and Elon Musk and like other people, big people started to talk about blockchain and validate other users of the currencies. El Salvador accepted Bitcoin, like all this like built up to bring credibility to things that I do. So it became easier. And also impact investment, like impact investment 5 years ago, people didn't know exactly what it was. Why this is pure philanthropy. And I said, no, you can invest in people, get the impact return and the financial return. You can do good and do well at the same time. Doesn't need to be a trade-off. And you can have this technology to see what they're doing and all the impact metrics. So, but today people talk about ESG, environmental social governance, and most of the banks here in Brazil, they have a mandatory thing that they need to classify their portfolio, talk about risk, climate change mitigation, like and other things that people are not aware, or they were just interested on a marketing perspective. Oh, see, I'm doing the product and I can plant trees. But yeah, where is the tree and what is this about, and what are the tangible metrics that you have? And now people are getting more awareness into the impact and sustainability of the assets they are allocating their portfolio, especially the young generation that I see today that is like moving towards this. So that was like a challenge, as well as in a challenge, the gender challenge to be a woman and an entrepreneur. For me, it was hard all the way, like that would be for a man, like to grow the company, to be a CEO, to handle the team and to handle the partnerships, and was like a lot of things that I had to grow within myself and make myself like stronger and stronger, like over time, to overcome those challenges and really feel that, okay, I know that how difficult it is. Like I know most of the startups in Brazil, like less than 1% are led by women. So it's like a lot of pressure. And I was like, oh, like
who do you look for? Do you look for your dad, or where do you get like do you get mentored? How do you, obviously you're not doing completely on your own as far as bouncing ideas and.
Yes. Mostly my family, my dad and mom, but I have mentors into particular things that I encountered like in my life, that they are there to support me. Jorge Nogueira, Ditya, like I have a couple of people that when I feel like lonely in my place of decision and I have something to call, it's like, oh, can you help me? I have this challenge with the team, with the technology, or with the regulatory space and government. So I have a couple of mentors that support me in my journey to build a complex thing, which is a bank for the good and to do good and to be inclusive and to drive innovation. I think both genders are never easy to change the status quo. So, but yes, that
And have you
was.
found it hard to get financing and to also get your name out there, like for people to know to invest or to sign up? How have you done that?
Yes. So I was lucky to do in a different way and lucky to be on the ICO time because that was the way that we financed Moeda at the beginning was issuing a currency and then getting people to understand and trust the project and to invest by investing on a currency, investing in the project. I couldn't get VCs like a Series A round or a pre-seed was too hard. People were like, "Oh, you're going to build a bank? Are you really sure? You're gonna have a card? You're gonna to?" And people were like doubting, and I said, "Yes, I will do this." Like, and then was like, I think to Bitcoin and the blockchain, like we received the first funding in Bitcoins and Ethereum. So for me, it was a new way to get funded, was a democratic way to get funded, and also in a way that I could have more freedom to drive the company for the purpose and where the way that I envisioned that to be. And but now like raising traditional capital is always hard. No,
Yeah.
like I could say like, oh, it's easy. It's like no, it's hard. You need to check like all the boxes. You need to. I wish like many things that I knew before and how to drive the company since the beginning to be really in a good way to build a Series A, Series B, Series C. It's a lot that you don't learn in an MBA or YouTube or even in the university. You learn by doing but now I see like there is many formulas to the thing and how you bring and generate real value into the world to see that transported as a revenue to see like the good that you do and perfecting the product and the technology and see people like using and loving it and building not a user base growing on clients, but we see as fans of Moeda and people that feel like participating in our ecosystem and they want to drive change as much as we do. So those beautiful things, it's like every day, never stop learning
Yeah, you
in how
never.
to be a better CEO and a
Is
better person.
name one thing you would wish you knew from the beginning that you've now learned.
Like those are the topics that I'm always like improving. One is people, like
It's
I
hard.
building the team. I think that is the key. And sometimes will be hard times that you postpone, like the hard conversations and like firing people, like and those things that are super difficult. And sometimes you postpone, but you should have done like earlier or the way to do it people don't tell about those things like how you how you
Yeah.
handle like the difficulty like
The quote is always like hire slow, fire fast.
yes, but even when you fire, you cannot just do out of the blue. You need to
Yeah,
prepare the team,
it's true.
otherwise the team will be like scared because they will get that too. So it's like a lot of psychology and a lot of other things in the intersect that. So I
It's
wish
true.
I knew like how to handle difficult conversations that I had this in my university as well, and things about finance and budget and like handle different cycles of the market. And so those are the topics that I study and I keep on like improving on myself is like people studying finances and the market because there's like a lot of cycles and I'm still young, but I've been to a couple of ones like when it's a good time and when it's like now like recession and inflation, how you handle those things and how you drive the company to support in a pandemic and when the time is difficult, when everybody the mental topic is important too, how you keep everyone like safe and create this safe environment so people can share because also in the pandemic everybody went like home office and when the physical kind of like get a distance you have just the Zoom meeting is so hard like sometimes and to really clarify the message and to up the mindset because then you get all the distractions in the world, the TV, politics, and this and that, like all negative. And I was like able to bring the energy to the team here while we were in the meeting, but then they would close the computer and we get like distracted by all the million things. How you bring the team together and close even in a through the distance. So those were like a lot of things that I was like able to learn, and with friends, with female founders too, because it's a little bit different, like the way that a man handles, and like how to bring the Generation Z as well. And they're super different. Their focus is different. They care about the things like the other people don't see. They care about like, oh, we want to have meetings about how to treat better the women in the company, how we do respect the women better, not just like putting the women in good positions, but having classes for the men in how to like, oh, what is men's planning, like all those topics that many older men they didn't know, and was like the Generation Z in the company bringing up like, oh, you should learn about this, you should respect more, you should listen, don't interrupt her on the why is she doing the notes, you should do the notes, like like those little sort of things that I saw like the difference on the new generation, like coming like and working in the company, and those like beautiful things. So I wish I would like start learning about like those topics and more about people and networking and like many other of the psychology and and how to build a company and how to prepare for series A, B, C, like how to engage early on with investors. That was like so important for Moeda, that I kept touch in the people when we just with updates. Like, so when we were like asking for, oh, we need another raising, and then was like, oh, out of the blue. No, they already knew us like before. So I wish I have done this like even like further, like 10 years ago, like starting talking to investors even before I didn't need any fundraise. Like a lot of those things that I see was by experience and talking to other friends in the community that I that I wish I knew before, and like to drive a company, and a lot of about myself too. I see my first years as being a CEO that I was getting much mature and wiser like through the time. Also more patience and handling myself as well. I learned a lot about myself and how I handle and how I react to problems and difficulties. So as more calm and patient and I was able to get even bigger responsibilities and handle that with much easy, and that became like less anxiety, less stressful in my life. I came with this not exactly work-life balance, but integrated life and work, because like everything that I love I'm doing, and this integrated in my soul, in my life, and it's more than I'm close to my heart and my purpose. But with this plan and strategy and following to see like that vision, I came to be fulfilled and grateful like to be able to design a product and build a company that is serving so many people.
That's great. Thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you for your time. I wish you the best of luck. You're doing so much to help so many people and make this world a better place. So, and you're just, a lot of it was like, woo, over my head. I was trying to follow like the whole, I'm a little too old to get to, I got to dive in more to the whole blockchain and NFT thing. I've been trying, but I'm not, you're so 6 years, 7 years into it. It's just amazing. And I'm just like learning about it now. So, but thank you so much. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.